Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 15th Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. I'm Joanne Burrow, and I am vice chair this year, and until the chairman arrives, I will be running the meeting for a very short time. So I'd like to ask Reverend Sarah Fisher to come up and give us an invocation, followed by Cobb County Police to lead us in the pledge. If you would, please stand.
Let us go to God in prayer. Holy God, our Creator, in you we live and move and have our being. We give you thanks for your good creation, and especially for Cobb County and the city of Marietta. We ask that you would continue to pour your blessing upon our community. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Continue to send us honest and able leaders. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace and justice may prevail. We lift before you all who are hurting or afraid, those who are seeking work, those who are without a place to call home. We also remember those whose lives have been lost and those who have been affected by COVID-19. We give thanks for those essential workers who have ministered to the sick and suffering, especially during this time. Gracious God, I ask that you would send your blessing on all who hold office in Cobb County, giving them the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. I give you thanks for their hearts that seek to serve the common good. May the things that we do this day, and indeed all the days of our lives, to be to the good of your creation and the glory of your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, officer, and thank you, Reverend Fisher. She is from St. Catherine's Episcopal Church. Okay. And while the chairman's coming up, Bill, will you read the notice for virtual meeting?
Certainly. As the commission has been doing as we've been going through the pandemic, we've been extending out the virtual participation during the zoning hearings for the next month or the next month to allow the community and everyone else to be able to participate in that way, and for advertising and everything to be proper. We have done that through the November, the December meetings. It's my suggestion that I know in January we're going to be having hearings regarding the comp plan, and then in February we'll be moving into the next set of hearings, but some of those will be advertised. Those need to be out, and I think it'd be too late for us to allow the new board in January to do that in order for us to meet all the deadlines that we need. So I'd suggest that we extend the COVID virtual participation rules that we've had in place for the last couple of meetings for the January and February meetings. So if you will, I could read those into the record and then take a motion, and then you can adopt them. Community Development has worked closely with Communications Cobb Information Services Department to offer this zoning meeting with virtual participation. To that end, I suggest that because of the unprecedented circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, that you make the following changes to your zoning meeting rules for the January 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning meeting and the February 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning meetings. First, that BOC staff and citizens be allowed to participate in the meeting virtually. The BOC members can vote by voice or hand signal. The persons wishing to be counted as either in favor or in opposition to an application will be recognized in the number of persons provided to the board. Persons who wish to participate virtually in favor or in opposition to an application will identify themselves accordingly to IAS technical staff for participation during the presentation of the application. And the persons who speak virtually will acknowledge and affirm that his or her testimony before the BOC is under oath or affirmed to be truthful. Otherwise, the BOC zoning meeting rules will apply except as modified during the normal course of the meeting.
Does that work with you, Commissioner Cupid? Okay.
You're just reading it into the record. We don't need to take any action.
Well, we had to vote on it.
Okay,
So moved?
second.
Okay, have a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board, and I welcome you to the last zoning hearing of the year. And for some of us, this is just the last zoning hearing. Yep. Okay, today's hearing will be conducted both in person and virtually. The folks that are signed up virtually, if you want to oppose a case, you would type in OPP to oppose, the case number, say Z56, in your Q&A box on your computer. Also, if you wish to oppose and also speak on a case, you would want to type in OPP, Z56, and then speak. Also, if you'd like to support a case, the process is fairly the same. You would type in SUP to support, then the case number, for instance, Z56. And also, if you want to speak on a case, you would type in SUP, Z56, speak. And we would ask that the people here who are participating virtually that when you become unmuted, you state your name and you just affirm that you've been sworn in to present testimony to the Board of Commissioners. The hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, we would ask the applicant please stand and raise their hand to show that they are in attendance. Then we're going to call to see if there's anyone here opposed to a case. We would also ask that the people here in person would stand and raise their hand so they can be counted for the record. Then after the counting of the opposition and the applicant and opposition will be asked to come forward to present testimony to the Board of Commissioners. It's important to note that the applicant would testify first, and then the opposition, if any, would testify second. Each side only gets 10 minutes to state their case or concerns. There is not a rebuttal process, and there's not a process to reserve your time. So convey all your information to the Board of Commissioners within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if more than one person wishes to speak on a case, you may want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to speak about, because each side only gets 10 minutes, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after the 10-minute presentation period, the board will start to discuss the case at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more speakers to come back to the front for additional comments or questions. And after that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, hold, or continue the case at hand. There are two cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. First case is Z56 of 2020, Venture Communities LLC. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice, will not be heard today. Second case is rezoning case Z73 of 2020, John Okubu. This case was withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Mr. Chairman and Board, there are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been held or continued and will not be heard today. And this is the following list of cases. First case is rezoning case Z39 of 2020, KO Management Incorporated. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z39 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z52 of 2020, Carl Edward Dills. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z52 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z59 of 2020, Tamia A. Patwary. This case was continued by the staff until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z59 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z61 of 2020, Green Line Partners LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z61 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z67 of 2020, Yolanda Crease. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z67 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z72 of 2020, North Point Ministries Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z72 of 2020 will not be heard today. And finally, ROD 1 of 2020, Atlantic Realty Acquisitions LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so ROD 1 of 2020 will not be heard today. It's my understanding that Commissioner Cupid may have one case that she would like to continue.
Yes, thank you, and the applicant is here. I ask that we add Z70 to the list of cases that are to be continued. So with that, our motion is we move Z70 to the list of continued cases.
No second.
Thank
We have
you.
a second. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. I would like to ask the people in today's audience that are here in person that if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phone as the ringing does interfere with the broadcast and the presentation. And any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 more is made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this requirement is located on the table in the back of this room. And I want to remind applicants opposition or any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by the board at their discretion. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
All yours.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I'm about to read the consent agenda, and there are some folks here that have registered to oppose 3 of the cases on the consent agenda, but I believe that person is with the school board. So if it's the board's wish, after the first case, we just have them do their opposition for all 3.
We'll do like we did in the past. Go ahead and let him come and make his comments. This is Mr. Sprayberry, right?
He's retiring. It's Paul Walker now.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. Sorry to see that. We welcome the new member.
Thank you. Okay, Cobb County Board of Commissioners, zoning hearing consent agenda for December 15, 2020. First case on consent is rezoning case Z13 of 2020, Arturo Martinez, and he is requesting a rezoning from PSC to NRC for the purpose of a church and land lot 190 of the 18th District. The property is located at the southwest intersection of Mapleton Parkway and Boggs Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the zoning division on November 24, 2020, with the following changes. A, adjustments necessary to accommodate a 10-foot wide multi-use trail with a 3-foot wide grass strip along Mapleton Parkway frontage. B, a 20-foot landscape buffer to be added to the western property line. C, adjustments to add a playground. Parking spaces may be moved, possibly to the southern portion of the lot, but there shall be no reduction in the number of parking spaces. D, District Commissioner to approve the final site plan. Number 2, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Chris Redmond, dated November 24, 2020. Number 3, all existing curb cuts to be removed. Number 4, elevations received with the last revision date of November 16, 2020. Number 5, applicant to construct the section of a 10-foot multi-use trail along their Mapleton Parkway frontage. Fee in lieu of construction allowed only if the multi-use trail is installed by the Department of Transportation prior to development of this site. 6, if Phase 2 is not completed within 5 years of receiving a certificate of occupancy for Phase 1, the right elevation for Phase 1 shall have brick and/or stacked stone added to meet design guidelines. Applicant to provide heavy landscaping for visual screening of the right elevation during Phase 1. Landscaping to include plantings that are at least 6 feet in height at planting. Number 7, applicant may construct the foundation of Phase 2 in construction with the construction of Phase 1. If the foundation is installed during Phase 1, the landscaping screen requirement is still applicable. Number 8, a landscape and architecture review committee shall be established to review and approve landscaping, building color palette, and design during the plan review process. The committee shall be comprised of the applicant, a member of the Mapleton Improvement Coalition, and a representative from the Community Development Agency. Number 9, the district commissioner may approve minor modifications except for those that A, increase the overall building square footage, B, cause a reduction in the size of a buffer, C, increase the height of a building, D, change an access location to a different roadway, E, change that which is in conflict with an express stipulation or condition of zoning. And F, requires a variance or violates Cobb County ordinance. And number 10, staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z13? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. And there is one person online who is opposed. Is that Mr. Walker?
For Z13?
Yes.
No, but they do not wish to. Oh, I'm sorry, they are in support.
Okay, they're in support. Let the record show there's one person online who is in support of the application.
John, I'd like to add stipulation for final building and landscape architecture to be approved by the district commissioner.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, rezoning case Z53 of 2020. The Revive Land Group LLC requests a rezoning from O&I to RM8 for townhomes, which are attached in land lot 389 of the 18th district. The property is located on the north side of Mapleton Parkway, the east side of Dodgen Road, and the west side of Bonanza Trail. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RM8 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan marked Exhibit A, attached to the letter dated November 24, 2020. Number 2, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Kevin Moore, dated November 24, 2020. Number 3, Mapleton Parkway design guidelines shall apply to the Mapleton Parkway frontage. 4, the front elevation of each building shall have at least 50% brick or stacked stone. Number 5, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Number 6, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. And number 7, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here in person opposed to rezoning case Z53? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
John, addition of the similar stipulation from the prior case for district commissioner to approve final building and landscape architecture.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Rezoning case Z66 of 2020, Value Plus Development LLC requests a rezoning from R80 to R15 for a single-family house in land lots 29 and 30 of the 19th district. The property is located on the north side of Old Dallas Road and on the south side of Dallas Highway, east of Ellis Preserve Lane. The Planning Commission recommends deletion to the R20 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the zoning division on September 25th, 2020, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Number 2, variance to reduce the front yard setback from 35 feet to 28 feet. However, no variance shall be given for the height of a structure or the number of stories because no express request of this variance was made. Number 3, variance is granted for lot size provided there is at least 19,000 square feet of lot, so a single-family house can be built on this property. Number 4, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Number 5, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. And number 6, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z66? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z68 of 2020, Related Development LLC, request a rezoning from CRC to RRC for multifamily residential in land lot 578 of the 16th district. The property is located at the northern terminus of Cobb Place Lane on the east side of Interstate I-75. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the zoning division on October 1st, 2020, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Number 2, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Garvis L. Sams Jr., dated November 24th, 2020. Number 3, variances as shown in the zoning comments and recommendations. Number 4, Fire Department comments and recommendations. Number 5, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Number 6, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. And number 7, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here in person opposed to rezoning case Z68? No. Let the record show there's no one here in person. This is one, Mr. Chairman, where there is one person opposed from the school board. So we would ask that Mr. Paul Walker's mic be unmuted and for him to state his reason to oppose the case.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As was previously indicated, I will be the interim representative for the school board in Charles Sprayberry's absence as on his retirement, excuse me, until a permanent replacement is named. Approval of this position The petition will cause concern for the Cobb County School District as it will result in an impact on the enrollment of schools already over capacity, specifically Bells Ferry Elementary School. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. And welcome to the board meetings.
Okay. Rezoning case Z69 of 20,
John, 1 second.
okay.
Okay, sure. All right.
Okay, on your stipulations that you just read, Mr. Peterson, for number 2, I'd like to add letters of agreeable conditions from Garvis L. Sams Jr. dated October 30th, November 9th, and November 24th. I'd also like to add the FAA report for the record dated December 3rd, 2020. And also DOT's recommendations for a westbound decel lane to be installed on Cobb Place Boulevard at Cobb Place Lane Signal, provided that there's existing right-of-way to construct those lanes. And then final approval of the landscape and site plan to be approved by District Commissioner. Is the applicant agreeable to all that?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
And let the record show the applicant is agreeable to those additions to the consent agenda. Okay, rezoning case Z69 of 2020, SK Commercial Realty and Goldenrod Companies request a rezoning from O&I and GC to RRC for a mixed-use development consisting of retail, office, hotel, and multifamily residential in land lots 914, 915, 945, and 946 of the 17th District. The property is located on the south side of Circle 75 Parkway, on the southwest side of I-75, northeast of Cobb Parkway, and northwest of I-285. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the zoning division on October 1st, 2020, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Number 2, letter of agreeable conditions for Mr. James A. Bally, dated November 23rd, 2020. Number 3, variances as shown in the zoning comments and recommendations with the following exceptions. A, delete the variance for minimum side yard setback. Side yard setback shall be 15 feet. B, delete variance for minimum driveway setback. A driveway setback shall be 20 feet, subject to parking and Department of Transportation approval. Number 4, fire department comments and recommendations. Number 5, stormwater management division comments and recommendations. Number 6, water and sewer division comments and recommendations. And number 7, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here in person opposed to rezoning case Z69? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Hey, John, I believe, I know that you're reading the Planning Commission recommendations, but I think that the current letter of stipulations is dated December 9th,
Okay.
right?
But before we get to that point, there is one person who signed up to oppose this virtually. It's Paul Walker, again, from the school
Sure.
system.
Okay, all
So
right.
we'll hear Paul Walker real quick, and then we'll get back into the motions.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Walker, you're welcome to make your comments, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for this opportunity. Approval of this petition will cause concern for the Cobb County School District as it will result in an impact on enrollment for schools already over capacity, specifically East Cobb Middle School. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Ott is correct. The letter of conditions for Mr. Bally was updated to December 9th, 2020, correct? Okay, so that one's going
Right,
to take place.
and you have a copy of it, right? It was filed last Wednesday?
Yes.
Right, okay.
All right, moving on. Rezoning case Z74 of 2020, Y. Young requests a rezoning from NS to NRC for a daycare in land lots 310 and 339 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of Shallowford Road, west of Trickham Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the zoning division on October 1st, 2020, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Number 2, stormwater management division comments and recommendations. Number 3, water and sewer division comments and recommendations. And number 4, Department of Transportation, comments, recommendations. The applicant is here. Is there anyone here in person opposed to rezoning case Z74? Let the record show there's no one opposed, in person or virtually. Moving into land use permits on the consent agenda, LEP 20 of 2020, Open Arms Group Home, request a temporary land use permit renewal for a group home in land lot 1272 of the 19th district. The property is located on the west side of Lindsay Drive, south of Jamestown Drive. The Planning Commission recommends approval of LEP 20 for 24 months, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, no more than 6 Department of Family and Children's Services clients living on site. Number 2, no parking in the right-of-way. And number 3, all stipulations from the previous land use permits apply where not in conflict. Is there anyone here in person opposed to LEP 20? No. Let the record show there's no one here in person or virtually opposed to LEP 20. Moving into special land use permits on the consent agenda, SLEP 12 of 2020, the Stonehaven School. Request a special land use permit for a school in land lot 281 of the 17th district. The property is located on the west side of Joyner Avenue and on the north side of Berber Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval of SLUP 12, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan received by the Zoning Division on October 1st, 2020, with the District Commissioner approving minor modifications. Number 2, stacking plan to be approved prior to a certificate of occupancy issued on the building. Number 3, Fire Department comments and recommendations. And number 4, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is there anyone here in person opposed to SLEP 12 of 2020? Let the record show there's no one here in person or virtually opposed to SLEP 12 of 2020.
Commissioner Burrow, go ahead.
DOT comments are, they have not received a traffic study and a circulation plan. And that was from Amy yesterday. So unless, does DOT have any additional information on that? Michael? No? Okay. So I'd like to add that the traffic study and circulation plan be submitted during plan review with final approval by the district commissioner. Can I do that? Okay. And it can stay on consent because there's nobody opposed, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see if there's a school there right now, correct?
It's currently a church. It was a church. It's been sold to a school.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But there's other schools in the area too.
Okay. Well, I was just concerned, like Commissioner Burrow and DOT, is about the traffic, because you're going to have up to 350 students there at the school, and so I think this thing about the traffic study is really, really imperative. Make sure that the neighbors understand the consequences of. It's one thing to have a big surge through there on Sunday, but on every day to have a big surge is something that might impact the local community. So I think the study is really, really important to have. But I support it. I just want you to know that I was concerned about the traffic and the impact on the surrounding neighborhood.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving into other business items on the consent agenda. First item is other business item number 70 of 2020, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for Childress Klein regarding rezoning application Z24 of 2018 for property located on the northwest side of Acres Mill Road, on the north side of Galleria Lane, and on the south side of Galleria Parkway in land lots 947 and 948 of the 17th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, sign package contained in the other business packet. And number 2, all previous stipulations to remain in effect. Is there anyone here in person opposed to other business item number 70? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 71 is to consider a site plan and stipulation revision for Decra Services Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z47 of 2019 for property located on the west side of Austell Road and on the north side of Stallion Parkway in land lot 1081 of the 19th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, a letter of stipulations from Mr. Adam Rosen dated December 9th, 2020. Number 2, final signage and building architecture to be approved by the district commissioner. Number 3, Cobb DOT comments and recommendations contained in the other business packet. And number 4, all previous stipulations not in conflict to remain in effect. Is there anyone here in person opposed to other business item number 71? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business, item number 72 of 2020 is to consider a stipulation amendment for Branch Acquisition Company LLC regarding rezoning application Z64 of 2017 for property located in land lots 692, 693, 748, and 749 of the 17th District. The property is located on the east side of Oakdale Road, the north side of West Village Crossing, and on the west side of Pine Street, and on the southwesterly side of Atlanta Road, and on the north and south sides of West Village Way. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, Exhibit B contained in the other business packet. And number 2, all previous stipulations not in conflict to remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 72? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 74 of 2020 is to consider amending the stipulations for Mr. James C. Lane Jr. regarding rezoning application Z84 of 2016 for property located at the northeast intersection of Fricks Road and Cochran Lake Road in land lots 331 and 330 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, reversion clause extended until December 15, 2022. Number 2, 2 driveways on Cochran Lake Road and 1 driveway on Fricks Road. And 3, all previous stipulations to remain in effect. Is there anyone here in person opposed to other business item number 74? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. And last one on the agenda is other business item number 75 of 2020, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for Mr. Paul Isbell regarding rezoning application Z74 of 2019 for property located in land lot 221 of the 17th District. The property is located on the west side of Eastside Drive, south of Caruth Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, fencing along Eastside Drive may stay in its current location. And number 2, all previous stipulations to remain in effect. Is there anyone here in person opposed to other business under number 75? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
And Commissioner Burrow has some cases she wants to add to consent. Didn't you?
Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z65 of 2020, Christopher McMillan? There's no one here opposed to that case. Let me go ahead and read it in, Commissioner Burrow, and then you can do your conditions on it. Rezoning case Z65 of 2020, Christopher McMillan requests rezoning from O&I to CRC for RV trailer sales in land lot 372 of the 16th District. The property is located on the west side of Canton Road and on the north side of Blackwell Circle. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z65 in person? Let the record show there's no one here in person or online opposing rezoning case Z65. So at this point, I'll hand it back over to Commissioner Burrow for her conditions.
This was heard at Planning Commission, and there was one lady in person and one virtual that opposed it. The Planning Commissioner, Judy Williams, made an excellent recommendation for their complaint, and so when the site plan and stipulations were revised, I emailed her, the lady that had signed up to speak, emailed her that and have not heard anything, so that's why I'd like to add it to consent.
I'm sorry, I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Okay, John, are you going to read the stipulations and the letters in for the record?
Can you read those in, Commissioner Burrow?
Pardon?
Can you read those in? I don't have those in front of me right now.
Okay, well, should I just make a motion to
We're
to
just-
approve it with those stip letters.
Sure, right.
And,
So we made a motion to add it to regular, all right? And now I want to have you read the case so we can vote on it. I mean, to consent. So we're going to have you read the case so we can vote on
before
it.
we vote on consent, I have to,
Right. We need you to read it
Okay,
into
I'll
the
just read it
minutes,
in.
and then we'll vote.
Okay.
We'll add, when we vote on consent.
Z65, we are recommending deleting to NRC for special use. Special use only for RV trailer sales. Stip letter from Mr. Kevin Moore dated December 9th. With site plan attached, and they're adding a fence along Blackwell Circle. I'd like to add no unloading or parking on Blackwell Circle or Canton Road, all within the property. All will be done, all operations will be done within the property. And final site plan, landscape plan, to be approved by District Commissioner. Mr. Moore is agreeable to all that? That would be my,
Okay, so those are in the minutes. So when we vote on consent, we'll go ahead and,
yeah, and Planning Commission and staff recommendations.
right. Want to keep going?
No, that's all.
Commissioner
That's all I
Cupid?
had to read into that.
Is there opposition online for OB 65? Okay, wonderful.
So you want to add that?
Yes, I'd like to add that.
Okay.
as
Okay.
well.
I'll second that motion to add it to the consent agenda.
Thank you, just bear with me, there's
Okay.
been back and forth.
Is there anyone here in person opposed to other business, number 65, Jonas Martinez? There's one person.
There is one person.
Otherwise?
Okay, then we'll hear it.
All right.
Yep, thank you.
Commissioner Gamble, do you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, my only concern is pulling, people at home are watching this and they know what the agenda is, and if we start pulling them up, I don't know if they've got time to get online to register their opposition. That's what my concern was.
Okay, well, we sort of split the baby. We did the first one okay, we'll leave the second one on regular, and we won't entertain anymore for now. I don't think anybody else I don't think there's any more to be added to consent anyhow, so we're good.
Yeah, or we're just gonna have to allow time for people to log in to
Sure.
be recorded.
Yeah, it's been my experience that if they're not happy with us, it doesn't take us long to get a hold of me. So, the phones will be ringing already if someone's not happy with what we're doing here. Okay, so we have the consent agenda. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as revised.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I would like it noted for Z68 that I am opposed.
Okay? Got that? All right. Otherwise, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. I think what the first one we're doing is Z54, right?
Correct.
Okay, good.
All right, and all those folks who are on consent agenda, you're free to leave. Just leave quietly because we're still running the hearing. Rezoning case Z54 of 2020, Galaxy Chillers Land LLC requests rezoning from R30 to R15 for single-family residential in land for a single-family residential subdivision in land lots 28 and 51 of the First District. The property is located on the east side of Childers Road, directly across from the terminus of Monet Drive. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here in person opposed to rezoning case Z54? Let the record show there are 5 people here in person opposed, and there's also 2 people online virtually who are opposed who do not want to speak. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in? the record to be corrected to show there's 6 people here opposed to this case in person. And I would also ask that the people who want to speak in opposition, please come forward to be sworn in also at this time.
Do I look like somebody's going to talk long? Sorry, do I look like somebody's going to go long?
Just let you, if there's anybody else who wants to talk, you can reserve.
Thank you.
Okay, so are the first speakers in support or the opposition?
This is the applicant.
So this is the applicant, okay, all right, just want to make sure I get all the right people in the right categories here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Harry Joseph. I'm managing member of Galaxy Childers Land, and we're here to talk about case Z54. Thank you for the time this morning. First, I wanted to share some key facts about our application of the property. All the neighborhoods surrounding the property are zoned R15. The planning staff originally recommended approval of our application, which at that time included a 6-lot plan. Next slide. However, after engineering the site further, working with the planning staff, Commissioner Waybright, and seeking and receiving input from neighbors, we modified our plan to the 5-lot plan you see. This 5-lot site plan requests no variances. All lots on the plan have more than 15,000 square feet outside of the curb of the road, and it results in a density ratio below the allowable 2.5 units per acre set for the R15 district. Our stormwater management plan has been reviewed and approved in concept by Cobb Water and Sewer Engineering. We conducted a hydrology study that shows our plan will reduce stormwater runoff on average between 40 and 55% after the lots are developed and the homes are built. We see this reduction as a significant benefit to our adjacent neighbors from their current situation. Next. We've identified a path to connect via gravity flow to Cobb County sewer, sanitary sewer across Childers Road, a path that does not require easements from any private parties. We presented and discussed our plan with our immediate neighbors, and we received affirmative positive feedback from Tiffany Place across Childers Road, no opposition from Ellenwood, adjacent to the north. However, certain folks from Coventry Green have expressed opposition to our 5-lot site plan, claiming 1, it is too dense, 2, stormwater management is inadequate, and 3, a private rather than public subdivision road is unsustainable. Concerning neighborhood density, opponents have argued our 5-lot plan is too dense for the neighborhood area. Next slide. First, our 5-lot plan results in a density ratio of 2.2 units per acre. Coventry Green asserts this is too dense, but as shown on this screen, our 5-lot plan offers essentially the same density as Coventry Green, which has a density ratio of 2.1 units per acre. And we ask that you consider whether 2.2 ratio is too dense adjacent to a 2.1 ratio neighborhood. Next. Second, our plan aligns the lots and homes in a way that is considerate of our neighbors. Our plan cites 2 lots on the north, compared to 2 Ellenwood lots, 3 lots on the east to 3 Coventry Green lots, and 2 lots on the south compared to 3 Coventry Green lots. Further, our lot boundaries straddle the existing neighbors' homes, the neighbor lot boundaries, and the houses are strategically positioned in relation to our existing neighbors' homes to provide desirable sight lines and the same or greater distance between structures as those in neighboring properties. We submit, therefore, our density ratio and plan layout are very much in keeping with the neighborhood area. Excuse me. Concerning stormwater management, opponents have suggested our proposed stormwater management plan, quote, will never work, end quote. That's a direct quote from one of our Coventry Green neighbors. Next slide. Stormwater from this site has flowed essentially the same for the last 55 years, as far as I know, which is nearly 3 decades before Coventry Green neighborhood was approved and developed. Our plan will greatly reduce the stormwater flow affecting our adjoining neighbors by A, directing the majority of the stormwater from impervious surfaces toward our street, B, collecting it in an underground detention facility, and C, eventually releasing it on our site with a level spreader to further detain runoff. As stated earlier, this design has been approved in concept by Cobb County Engineering. Private versus public road. Opponents to our plan suggest a private subdivision road is, one, not in keeping with the neighborhood, and two, too great a cost burden to the homeowners. Cobb County ordinance has no mandate for a public road on private property. In fact, private roads have been used many times in Cobb County, including in multiple East Cobb neighborhoods within a mile or two of our site. This solution has been especially used with small infill sites such as ours. Here are just 3 examples where private roads have been approved and are in use now in neighborhoods proximate to our site. Next slide. The neighborhood is outlined in red. The road is outlined in green. Next slide. And the next slide. We plan to design and construct our private road to Cobb County public road standards. If our private road size, dimensions, and construction details are the same as other Cobb County public roads, the only practical difference then is who maintains the road and whether such costs can be borne by the homeowners. We consulted an experienced contractor who advised us that a well-constructed road will last 12 to 15 years with normal usage. Since our road, built to the same exacting standards as public roads, serving neighborhoods containing many more residents with correspondingly much more traffic, our road will serve only 5 families, and one can reasonably project that our road will sustain significantly less wear and tear over the same time period, and therefore last longer before requiring any significant maintenance. Our contractor estimated total road maintenance, that is to grind and top coat it, would cost about $10,000 in today's dollars. Projecting that forward 15 years with inflation, we estimate the future cost to be around $15,000. We are prepared to contribute money now to be held and used by the Homeowners Association to maintain the road and in the future, thereby lessening any perceived burdens. Conclusion, to develop a neighborhood on this property with the infrastructure required to significantly improve stormwater management and create a neighborhood that complements the existing well-established neighborhoods, we need 5 lots to make this project feasible. As you know, the Planning Commission recommended approval of our case to R15, but with certain conditions. We wish to offer the following conditions to which we are willing to agree if our rezoning to R15 with 5 lots is approved. Commissioner Ott and Commissioners, we have hard copies for you if you'd like to have these. Next slide, please. Would you like
Could you just hand them to Cornelius and they'll get them up to us so then the commissioners can follow along?
Yes. May I go ahead and continue for my time? Thank you. First, build a private hammerhead-style road that meets or exceeds Cobb County designs and construction standards. 2, we will not request or require setback variances, and please recognize all of the variances measured on all of the site measurements on our net buildable area for each lot are from the outside curb, not the property line in the middle of the road. For stormwater detention, build an underground stormwater detention facility with single release pipe and attendant level spreader at the rear of the property in conformity with Cobb County regulations. Next one, please. To the extent reasonably possible, retain the substantial number of existing trees currently proximate to the site boundaries and plant additional trees near the site boundaries as guided by a professionally designed landscape plan. We will work out the specific details with the district commissioner. Next. Comply with the county and state code requirements as well as staff comments from county transportation, fire safety, sanitary sewer, and stormwater departments. We will regulate the site construction so we're not disruptive to the neighbors in the early morning or late evening. We will form a homeowners association to oversee maintenance of the road and stormwater management facilities. We will contribute $8,000 from the sale of the lots to the homeowners association for future road and detention facility maintenance. And I remind the commissioners that we request that the Z54 zoning shall be conditioned upon the site plan submitted on November 19th to the Planning Commission, subject to minor modifications to be improved by the district commissioner from time to time. And lastly, included in our letter of intent was a constitutional objection, and we incorporate that by reference here. And to summarize, if a 5-lot plan is not approved, then the property does not have a reasonable economic use under the zoning ordinance. We would be deprived of the ability to use the property in accordance with its highest and best use, and it would discriminate us as compared to similarly situated property owners. Thank you.
Could you go back to that chart that had the hydrology on it? Yep, that one up there. Okay, so up here it says hydrograph returns. What does SCS stand for? SCS runoff.
I'm sorry, where are you? There's our engineer. I'll ask him to speak to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Juan Pablo del Rio. I'm the civil engineer for working for Harvey on this project. SCS is the method that is used to run the hydrograph that determines the time of concentration throughout the specific basin that is being analyzed.
Okay.
So it gets very
All right, and the, and CFS, peak outflow, CFS stands for?
CFS is a little bit easier. That's the cubic feet per second. That's flow.
Okay, so on, like, let's go down to basin 1, pre-development, 0.498. It's going to be 0.498 cubic feet per second. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I read that correctly.
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. I'm sure I'm not the only one that had that question, but I'm certainly the only one that's going to ask it.
Fully understandable. I hope I helped some.
Yeah, well, I'm just a sociology major, you know, who flew helicopters, so. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, it will be for proposed underground detention.
Okay, all right, sir. Well, thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Now, those in opposition, if you let us know who you are, we appreciate it. And we have 10 minutes also. So if you have more than one speaker, just be mindful of the fact that you have 10 minutes for all the speakers.
I'm going to take my mask off if you don't mind so I can speak better. Good morning, I'm Lisa Morshower. I am an attorney with the law firm of Berman, Fink, Van Horn, and I, along with Rob Stein, who is behind me, represent Coventry Green Homeowners Association, which is the neighborhood right behind this property. But I happen to live in a house that is directly impacted by this property. My home is at 4579 Kettering Drive. I'm right below the corner of the southwest corner of that lot. That's my home. And my house is about 17, my property line is about 17 feet off of their property. My house and my property are impacted by the development on this property. We already have a water runoff issue from this property. So any development impacts my home and my neighbors with water runoff and density. The application presently before you, asking for 5 sites, does not meet the criteria set out in the Cobb County Zoning Code in Section 134-122. Specifically, the development as proposed does not adhere to the density elements, the traditional layout and character of the neighborhoods surrounding this property on Childers Road, and the proposal is not in conformity with the policy and intent of the land use plan. The proposal specifically and purposefully sets out a private road so that it can increase the density level of the homes on that site. Even though none of the other surrounding communities have a private road, all of the other communities have public roads, including Coventry Green and Tiffany Place and Ellenwood, which are immediately impacted. Coventry Green does not oppose the rezoning to R15, but we do ask that this developer be required to play by the same rules as the other subdivisions up and down Childers Road have used. The density for Coventry Green is 2.03 using a public road, so that is not exactly what the gentleman said just a minute ago. The allowed density of this new development should be based on a use of a public road, and Mr. Stein's going to present an exhibit which shows the densities of various communities around. But with 5 lots for this property, using a private road, the density is 2.23. But when you look at that same property with 5 lots using a public road, the density jumps to 2.71, which is much higher than anything in this area, and it's above the 2.5 density level set out in the future land use plan. We respectfully request that you uphold the Planning Commissioner's determination that no more than 4 homes should be located on this property and the other conditions that the Planning Commission instituted. Mr. Stein will continue with our representation and presentation, but we respectfully request that if there's any time left over from our 10 minutes, that we be allowed to use it for questions or comments. Thank you so much.
That'll be fine. Sir?
And
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Robert Stein with Lizega Johansson representing Coventry Green Homeowners Association. Before discussing the applicant's case, I do want to preserve constitutional rights, both Georgia and federal, on behalf of the association, and the association observing those on behalf of all property owners in the association. It's our position the application, as Lisa said, doesn't meet at least 3 of the rezoning decision criteria set forth in the ordinance. First, and we'll focus on that, is that the application is not in conformity with the policy and intent of the land use plan. The Cobb Comprehensive Plan addresses the requirement to protect neighborhoods on at least 3 occasions in it. First, it provides that new growth must be done in a manner that preserves and protects existing stable neighborhoods and community character. Second, it provides that new residential uses should be developed in a manner that protects the character of existing areas. And third, it states that infill development, if appropriate, must be compatible with future land use designations. The central and critical issue with this application is that the density that's being requested is too high. The developer is seeking a rezoning from R30 to R15. Their proposed site plan requests 5 lots on this small 2.24 acre parcel. As we'll show shortly in this density listing that we've got here, it exceeds the density of every development in this area. The Planning Commission found that the proposed plan was too dense and recommended a maximum of 4 lots. Here is what was behind the rejection of the 5-lot plan that you have in front of you. And keep in mind, this was filed originally as a 6-lot plan. This parcel and this area is in the LDR low-density residential category, which provides a density range of from 1 unit up to 2.5. The comp plan states that factors such as tract size are to be considered. The comp plan then states the goal is to provide compatibility with adjacent residential uses and to make sure the proposals at the high end of the range don't adversely affect the stability of existing residential uses. Coventry Green brought in Ingenium Engineering to evaluate the site plan. The engineers did an apples-to-apples density comparison, and that's what shows in this chart. The chart shows the density calculations for numerous communities around East Cobb, including the 2 subdivisions that are adjacent to the property. Coventry Green at 2.03, let's not round that up, and Ellenwood at 2.01. We're dealing with what would seem to be small numbers, but they have great impact on this piece of property. There are various newer communities, Childers Walk at 1.84, Cambridge Walk at 2.13, and Tiffany Place at 1.84. But as you can see from the chart, the average density of the subdivisions in the area is 1.88 units per acre. And at the bottom of the chart, you can see the proposed private road with 5 lots produces a density of 2.23. This is the highest density in the area, and that's with private streets. If, however, you use a public road, as do each of the other subdivisions adjacent to and surrounding the subject property, then an apples-to-apples comparison results in a much higher density, as Lisa said, of 2.71 units per acre for 5 lots. We think it's clear the developer is using private roads to skirt the issue. You can see visually, if we can go to the second item, you can see visually, you can see how the lots are so much smaller because a slice of them is actually being used for road. So the usable portion of the lots is actually smaller. By using private roads, the developer is able to calculate square footage for each lot up to the center of the private road rather than to a curb. This allows the developer to obtain larger lots to meet the square footage required by R15. However, in reality, half the street is part of the lot acreage. Private subdivision streets were rejected by this commission in Z92, a 2015 case for another subdivision nearby on Childers. We understand the nearest private streets, as the developer said, is more than a mile away. There are thousands of homes between this area and the closest private street subdivision. Private streets are out of character for this area and with the density that they bring. If we could shift to number 3. If the applicant were to use public streets, then the site plan would look like this for 5 lots. And you can see this a proposal which treats the parcel equal with the other in the areas would cause the lots to shrink. R15 developments are designed and built to ensure, according to the ordinance, intensity and density compatibility. They have to be designed in this fashion with the adjacent single-family detached dwellings. This one is simply too dense. We can move to the next one. The Planning Commission found that at 5 lots, homes are going to be packed in. This development will not match the traditional layout and character of the subdivisions in the area. The lots and the homes that are actually surround this lot are angled in fashions so that by putting in 5 lots, it is simply overwhelming as compared to the lots that surround it. Private streets, while even with some small funding, mean problems down the road, and this commission is not going to want those problems as they come up for this area. The county should not allow, and if I could move to the next diagram. We want to show you, need to open that one up. Thank you. The county should not allow the developer to use a private road to obtain a higher density that's found in surrounding communities. This diagram shows what this development would look like as a 4-lot development. Our engineers designed this with a public road, with a cul-de-sac. It can and should be done this way. This fits the character of the area. This doesn't cause too much density. It doesn't create bad precedent with density that is way too high. And now, it may be that high density allows the applicant to develop at the highest and most profitable use, but as we know, that's not the standard Georgia courts use. Developers are entitled to a reasonable economic use, and 4 lots is more than reasonable for this property. In addition to density, we do remain concerned about hydrology. We've not seen an updated hydrology report. The statistics shown were for an earlier site plan as we understand it. And therefore, we have no idea if this plan and what their final water plan and hydrology will be for it. This is a tremendous concern for folks at Coventry Green who are already existing flooding problems. But there were some recent trees we understand that may have been cut down on the property. In closing, Coventry Green respectfully requests that the board adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission, with one exception. We respectfully request that condition number 7 from the Planning Commission that required a berm around the new subdivision be revised such that the requirement applies whether or not access can be obtained for piping stormwater runoff. This request for a berm, a vegetated berm, is in line with Coventry Green and the zoning that the commission placed on Coventry Green back in 1988, which requires a 10-foot natural buffer around Coventry Green. Thank you. I'll close up. And so this would be equivalent to how that berm has been, and how that buffer has been put in place. We thank you. We submitted our exhibits to the Planning Commission and have provided them here as updated for the record.
Thank you, sir. And ma'am, thank you. Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, this has a lot of moving parts. And I kind of feel we're at a court here with the 2 constitutional challenges. But I think in my discussions with the applicant and the opposition, this discussion really comes down to 3 elements: public versus private road, the number of lots, and then stormwater. Those are kind of the 3 issues that we need to talk about. John, I guess you're probably the best one to answer these questions, first ones. I've heard a lot about, and this is the first time in 20 years of zoning, does the county remove the square footage of a road when determining density?
When you look at the zoning code, each code has an average density for certain categories. The current zoning has an average of 1.1 units per acre. The request to R15 is an average of 2.15 units per acre. So that takes into account the public road, the detention, or anything else that may not be in each lot.
Right. So, but when you're doing the actual calculations, whether it's private, public, if it's private and part of it's included in the lot, it's not really a factor.
No, the road is not backed out of the density calculation. It's included within it.
And that's what I thought. And if I'm correct, and Cornelius, I don't know, do you have the applicants, he had that table that showed the lot square footages? Or I think it was a site plan.
I just want to make sure I understand, John. the practice is not to include the road as part of your square footage of the lot, is that correct?
For a public road, it's not included in the square footage of the
Yeah, but for
lot.
private roads?
Private roads, sometimes it is and sometimes it's not.
Oh, okay. That covers it all.
Right, but when you compute density, the road doesn't factor into it. I mean, you can, on public road, obviously, the road cannot be included in the lot square footage because it's not owned by the lot owner, whereas in private road, it could be. But when you're doing the overall density calculations, when you tell us, or, you know, the density of a project, it doesn't matter really if it's a public or private road. You're taking the overall square footage of the piece of property and dividing it by the number of lots, correct?
Correct.
Right, that was the point I was
Gotcha,
trying to make.
okay, I hear you.
Yeah, no, on a public road, it can't be part of an individual lot because it's a public road. No, the one I was looking for, and Mr. James may have it. Yeah, was the applicant, you have his PowerPoint, right? Yeah, it's the applicant's PowerPoint. Keep going. Keep going. No, there was a slide that he had that showed the square footage of the lots with and without, with the private road and public road.
It was the first slide they showed us.
Was it on the first slide? I just didn't see it. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, there it is. It's in a table. Yeah, okay. So,
You're losing your tie.
yeah. No, I don't think this was the one I saw, but.
Well, it's got the square foot.
Yeah, all right, yeah,
chart,
it does have it, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at the gross area of each lot, okay, then they have the road area, and if you were to subtract it out and make it a public road, the lots all still meet the R15 zoning category. So my point in asking John the question was, based on what is presented here, the county's density calculation, and the reason I'm bringing that up is just because the opposition brought up density. It still meets the way the county would look at density calculations, regardless of whether it's public or private. And according to this diagram from the engineer, if it was made to public road, it would still meet the lot requirements for R15.
Correct.
Okay. So whether it's public or private has no impact on the density or the square footage, I mean, whether or not they meet R15 code.
Well, the issue whether it's public or private does not affect the lot size at all. What it really affects is your impervious surface. Because if you look at lot number one, all the gray area on lot number one would be counted against the impervious surface for the lot. So whenever that lot comes in for permitting, all that gray area is
If it
going to
was
be
private or public?
private. If it's public, it doesn't matter because it's not on their property. But all that gray area is on a lot for lot number one, so that would be counted against their impervious surface from the beginning.
So having a private road would be detrimental for the size of the house because of the impervious?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So, let's talk about the land use plan. Now, in this entire surrounding area is zoned R15. This is the only R30 in the immediate area, correct, John?
Correct.
And it does meet the proposal, and I'm not talking about 6 lots, we're between 5 and 4 right now. 5 lots meets R15 code?
Correct.
Okay. What's that? I'm going to be asking for all your comments. Yeah, go ahead.
It meets the minimum 15,000 square feet lot. What you're.
Yes, and that's why I wanted, that's why.
What about road frontage? Does it meet, if it's private roads, doesn't it have to have 75 feet of road frontage?
That's a great question.
Yeah, for each lot, like the 3 back lots, you know, that's actually a variance the way the public road frontage down from 75 feet to 0 feet.
Does the private road have to meet the standard, the public road standard, though? That's the question.
It's normally built to public road standards, Mr. Chairman, because there are requirements from our fire department that it has to be able to hold up a fire truck. So it's normally built to county standards.
Okay. So
Right, but I think the question, and looking at can we go back to the site plan, Cornelius?
And then I have another question too.
Right, so, John, if it's a public road, then it would require 75 feet of road frontage, correct?
Per lot.
What's that, per lot?
Yes.
And you're saying this plan does not meet that?
No, the 3 back lots do not have any public road frontage.
If it's a public road in the subdivision?
In this current layout right
No,
here.
no, no, what I'm saying, no, I'm going back, in private, obviously they don't, right?
They don't.
And if it's a public road, how do they not have road frontage?
If you look at the three back lots, Mr. Commissioner Ott, the three back lots do not have any public road frontage out to Childers Road.
Right, I understand that, but if it were to be a public road in the subdivision, then they do have road frontage because it's a public road,
Correct.
correct?
That's
Right, that's what
Yeah,
that's what I was
there's no
asking.
Okay.
Access behind them. There's no access to a road behind them.
No,
I mean,
all right, if it's a private road, obviously it does not have access to a public road, which is Childers Road, because the only access is the road that would enter the neighborhood. The only houses that would have road frontage on a public road would be lots number 1 and 5. If
Yes.
it's a public road, then the public road comes all the way into the subdivision, and every lot has road frontage, correct?
That would be correct.
All right, that's where I was trying to go.
Okay.
All right,
so
so,
my other question is, what John alluded to with the road and the impervious, do each of the lots have 35%?
we haven't gotten to that part yet.
Maximum?
That hadn't
Okay.
come up in the earlier discussions. I'm just trying to get through the three I knew
That's
about,
good.
and now the ones that are coming out. All right, so this would be fire department. I see you grimacing over there. You don't get out of it. Come on up. Because there's been a discussion about hammerheads, cul-de-sacs. So we're going to find out from the expert.
Mary, Cobb County
You're an
Fire
expert
Marshal's
because you know
Office.
more than the 5 of us.
Okay, we'll pretend. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so this plan, you know, keeping in mind this, you know, the 75,000-pound truck and all those requirements, does this meet fire requirements or is this not?
As I understand it, when we looked at it in the office, it does.
It does, okay.
The 5 lots, this one right on the
This
screen.
site plan right here,
This, it meets your standards.
it
Okay, I
does.
just wanna
We
make
don't
sure.
have the road specifications and all
Right,
that,
well, I
but the
mean, and-
geometrics of it, yes.
Yes, yeah, because you know, you have to have cul-de-sac. And could you explain, and maybe this will be DOT, hammerhead versus cul-de-sac?
Sure.
What is the impact for fire?
The way the rules read is that we can't have more than 150 feet without a turnaround, either hammerhead or a cul-de-sac or some other means. And then each leg of that hammerhead has to be a minimum of 60 feet long. And during site plan review, we would require them to show us with auto turn how a truck could get in and out.
Okay, but basically, so far right now, this proposal, and the reason I bring it up is it was a big discussion at the planning commission about hammerhead versus cul-de-sac.
Sure.
So this does meet your code?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I guess this would be the engineer for the applicant, because we're gonna ask about the impervious.
Hello again.
All right, so I know that the proposal is, I think, for between 2,400 and 4,200 square foot houses. And you heard John Peterson's comments about the fact that in a private road situation, all of that asphalt would count towards impervious on that lot.
Correct.
Have you looked at the impervious calculations for each lot?
Not yet, but last time I ran the hydrology, even with the cul-de-sac, which, by the way, brings even more impervious surface to the lot versus the hammerhead, all lots were still under 35%. However, and I've done this previously in the county, where instead of having concrete driveways come up to the homes, we can replace them with pervious pavers, which soften off the.
Right, but if I remember right, and stormwater guy is going to be coming up here shortly, but I don't think it's a 1-for-1 or 100% reduction in, you know, if
Right.
the amount of pervious pavers that you put in, it's not an immediate 100% reduction.
Correct.
It's a percentage.
It is a way of softening up. You know, definitely as we move closer into the final layouts of the homes, we will take into consideration the county laws that state the maximum impervious area allowed.
So, but the answer to the first question was you really have not looked at that yet.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. Stormwater, do we have somebody here from Stormwater?
This is Carl Carver. I'm online.
Okay, Carl. You,
All right.
all right, Carl, you've heard some of the questions and the comments, and I know that, like I said, one of the big three issues is stormwater runoff. And a lot of the discussion has been because the applicant was unable to get an easement to take the stormwater off the property. So can you talk a little bit about, because it's some discussions we don't normally hear about in residential properties, the underground detention and the fact that they're going to put it out, and I believe in a sheet flow. We heard the opposition talk about the water runoff problems they have. Could you talk about all that?
Yes, sure. First off, the design of the stormwater will have to be, we require them to design to the maximum impervious surface for residential. And that'll include the private road or public roads in residential. The underground detention system is something that's been done in the past, and they will discharge into a level area created by a berm or a short berm in height, such that it will pond up and sheet off from the property, similar to the way it's doing now. It's an accepted method to try to simulate the existing conditions.
Okay, but the existing conditions, my understanding in talking to the homeowners is that there are some issues. Now, my understanding is that the law does not allow them to make it worse, correct?
That's correct. They cannot make it any worse.
And they
they'll
can't,
have to.
and they also can't redirect it from where it currently comes from, correct?
Correct. So the level spreader in this case would have to be pretty wide, long to be similar to those three lots that back up to Coventry Green. Right now, the topographic contours, the area is all sheeting towards Coventry Green.
Right, it's a pretty steep drop off going towards Coventry Green. And what you've seen so far,
Yeah, could you show the topography?
Cornelius, it's in the, it's on our files. There's two site plans online from the county.
We got it right there. We're good.
Yeah, well, they had, because the applicant had a plan that showed, because they're gonna have to alter the topography.
Well, being a Marine, I can read that.
Being a pilot, you should be able to read it. Basically, when I looked at it, there's about an 11-foot drop from where the proposed road is to the back of Coventry Green.
Looks like 16 to me.
Well, the way it's being, they're moving the dirt around.
Okay.
That's why, Cornelius, can you pull up the, yeah, it's like, it's in our zoning folder online. They had a picture, they had two site plans. One showed the, how they were going to do the topography. Yeah, it's in the books. You might be able to put it up on the screen. This is what I wanted to show.
Okay, where were they going to put the stormwater detention on this map?
Well, we're getting to that.
All right.
The bottom of the hill. I'm not gonna put it up top.
Well, clearly at the bottom.
You see what I'm talking about, Cornelius?
You wanted to show the topography?
Yes, yeah.
I have the site plan.
Yeah, there's another one that had,
I didn't see one in the book.
yeah, it was online. Do you have it on there? All right, hold on, I'll show you what I got. I don't know if you're gonna be able to show this. It's this one. Yep, there you go, keep going. Take one more turn, and then it'll be similar to what we've been looking at. All right, so this is, was in the stuff submitted online. And so this kind of shows, so Mr. Chairman, you see the topography lines that you saw in GIS. Then the darker lines are their representation of what they would do to basically change the way the land is sloped,
So they're gonna create a cliff in the south part of the property?
basically.
And you're gonna put a stormwater detention pond
Well, I don't
in?
know, that's why we're gonna, the engineer, whoever is on the applicant side with the stormwater. Because when I was looking at all this, to me, I mean, you know, we talked about what I think the three big issues are, but I think stormwater is the biggest. All right, can you talk to this drawing and about what the
Yes.
chairman just mentioned?
Absolutely. So this was a preliminary drawing. I'm still working with Southeast Culver, who is the manufacturer of the underground detention system we intend to use on this property. The underground detention system will be placed under the road along the eastern side, kind of facing the three homes. And all the stormwater from the road and the roofs of the homes and driveways will sheet flow into the street and capture through a series of inlets. Now, the grading to the south, I did not finish tidying it up, but that can be fixed with some type of a timber wall or something to soften up and then be planted so that it's not such a steep slope. But pretty much house number 2 will be having a basement, which that's how you see those contours kind of coming to a close there on the southern part of that lot number 2. We can always extend that phase of the foundation, and as I said, we're not fully done with the home products, but we can extend that home foundation so that we drop that slope and have a much softer, kind of even maybe a drain on top of that grass area to push it back into the underground detention system.
Okay, and the stormwater, what's his name? Yeah, I know it's a new guy. Carl, that's right, Carl. Carl, have you seen this drawing before?
Yeah,
Okay,
I've seen that drawing. I have seen that drawing, but I have not seen any kind of stormwater design on top of it.
so Carl,
I
based on
think
what, go ahead.
concern would be that, how is he going to discharge that stormwater underground detention between the houses?
Well, that was going to be my next question to ask you. Based on what you talked about with the sheet flow and the berm, but what I hear you saying with the lay of the land, that would have to be on the east side of this development, correct?
That's correct. It would have to be towards the rear of those 3 lots.
And so if the underground detention is in the road, the water has to get from there to behind those 3 houses, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And that will be done through a pipe, kind of what we have previously shown. So we'll bring a pipe through probably a center line of one of those 2 property lines and then discharge into a head wall and then place the level spreader along the back of those 3 lots. But it will all be underground. Since the underground detention will be on the road, then there will be an underground pipe.
Right. I mean, yeah, I understand that part. I mean, you've got the lot lines coming right up to each other. All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to kind of hear from the other commissioners, because as you can see, it's got a lot of moving parts. And
Commissioner Gamble?
Commissioner
You have a
Cupel's going, she's glad she's
Commissioner
on
Gamble,
that.
Sure. That's exactly been my sentiment, that maybe it's worthwhile, continuing it and letting staff confer with the engineer and provide some clarity to the parties involved. Because there does seem to be a lot of discussion about how the hydrology is going to work with this plan. And as you
I'm not
shared, that's just
Commissioner,
one.
Richardson's going to be happy if I throw this one at
I
her.
know, it's a lot, but she will have a couple of months. It does provide them some time, again, for everybody to have some understanding of it. And this wasn't even, well, it's certainly this is a significant issue for the community, but the, number of homes too was also an issue. And I don't know if this goes away if you have 4 versus the 5 homes.
And
There's
yeah, I
still
would agree
be
with that.
stormwater.
the 4 versus 5, really, that's not the issue.
Yeah.
And I think even the public versus private road, I mean, I'm not sure that anybody, and the engineer even talked about the fact that they hadn't looked at the impervious. It would seem to me, and I'm not sure why the applicant doesn't want a public road. I don't know if I want to call him up and ask him, but it would seem to me that a public road would totally resolve the impervious issue. But Commissioner Burrow, any comments?
Well, I would just make sure that each lot has no more than 35% impervious in your STIP. And they have to
Yeah, we
comply.
can say that, but at the same time, they can always come back in.
Well, if they have to drop a lot to get to that, they get 4 lots instead of 5. Or public road instead of private.
Commissioner Gamble?
Pervious pavers too, he said they would be
Right, but
amenable to that.
And Carl, what's the, and I think it's a percentage, isn't it? It's not a 100% credit with pervious pavers? It's 40%. 40%? Yeah, I thought it was 40%. So yeah, there's still an impervious calculation. Commissioner Gamble?
I'm sorry, I'm on a Board of Commissioners meeting right now.
Yeah, no, Carl, you're here with us.
Oh, really? Is there a shadow government I don't know about somewhere?
So Carl, the question was, and
Steve.
yeah, did you hear my question? I know. Yeah, well, we got the answer from John. Commissioner Gamble?
Can we go back to the topo
I'm
map?
not the best person to talk to about that.
John, we got the answer. We're good. Thank you.
Yeah, can you mute him? Because I don't think he knows that he's talking to us.
Cornelius, can we go back to the topo map that had there we go. So in listening to the applicants, the engineer, they're going to be building a wall on, I'm guessing this is the south side, where I know they were saying it was on the east when we were looking at it. My concern, though, is how is that wall going to look against the adjacent property owners?
Well, there is, we do have, if you want to call it the wall ordinance. I mean, John, I don't know if I call it anything different, but basically up to 6 feet, the wall could be on the property line, but then when you go 6 foot 1 inch, it then has to be either tiered or moved back 5 feet. And then when you get, so at 11 feet, John, right, it would be 6 feet, and then you got to go back 5 feet to get the last 5 feet. Or you'd have to go back the 5 feet for the entire wall if it was a single wall. So, I mean, there is some protection that the wall would not be right on the property line, but as for how it looks, I think that is a valid question, and that's why I put that slide up, because it's a pretty steep incline there.
Exactly.
Right, and I know when we typically do detention ponds, we have visual screening for them to protect the adjacent homeowners. So that's why when I heard the wall, that was concerning.
Yeah, I think it's probably, I don't know, because we haven't seen whether it's a stepped wall or if it's a wall. And so, I mean, that, like I said, that's why I brought it up. So, all right. So, Mr. James, I know he's back there somewhere. Is he still here? There he is. Come on up. First off, I appreciate the effort in looking at it, and I also appreciate the opposition's effort. I just want to kind of go through your list here, and I'm reluctantly inclined to hold it because I don't think anybody would be happy if we had to make a decision today, and I think that there's some more discussion that could be had to maybe get to a more agreeable solution. Like I said, I'm really reluctant to be pushing this off to a new commissioner, but for the road, and I mean, you're totally within your right to build a private or a public road, and we've heard from the fire department that a hammerhead is fine, so I mean, I don't really have a problem one way or the other with that, and I really don't have a problem with public versus private. We've talked about with John Peterson that the density calculations and everything are, it doesn't really matter if it's public or private. I do think that it's a potential issue for impervious on the lots for you to be able to build the type of house, and I know you want to live in one of them. So I know you don't want to have, or your wife probably doesn't want to have a small house because, you know, you're going to be on the one that, so I think that's something to look at versus public versus private. And I can't expect you to be able to answer that today.
I can answer it today,
Okay.
if I may. I don't
Go
mean to
ahead.
interrupt you, sir. The reason is the parallelogram shape of the property, the geometry, makes the additional right-of-way in conflict with all the other requirements. If we put in the road to normal standards except for the extra right-of-way, if we put in a private road to those standards, we can overcome the parallelogram shape of the property. If we put in a public road, which includes more dedicated right-of-way, it throws the geometry off so that the lots really don't work. We've tried it. I think my engineer can support this. I think we've tried it like 5 different ways.
Okay.
So that's really what got us to where we are.
Okay, all right. Variances, you're not asking for any setback variances. Like I said, the biggest thing that I would think could potentially be an issue would be the impervious, the 35%. Stormwater detention, you heard the discussion. I think everybody, I think that one thing that could potentially be to your benefit, and I know a lot of times it's not normally done until after zoning is approved, but a more kind of robust look at how the detention would, you know, kind of a better idea for the commissioners to understand how it's going to work so that it's not impacting the community. Okay, I know you want 5 lots, so I would guess that you would want to come in with how detention is going to work with 5 lots. And also part of that, and you heard a couple of the commissioners, is what's it going to look like for the neighborhood? You know, and I know there's technically no infill ordinance, but when we talk about infill, you know, part of the whole concept is that you look like you belong to what's already there. And so I think it would be really important to maybe spend a little bit of the time, if indeed the board holds it, between now and February to come up with, you know, not just a better show of how the stormwater is actually going to be dealt with, because it is a problem in Coventry Green right now, but also how is it going to look to the neighbors. The landscape buffer, you heard that they had a request. They have a 10-foot buffer. You know, you pretty much kind of indicated that you were going to try to keep the trees that were there. I think that there could be a little more discussion as to basically just having that 10-foot buffer. But then once again, then you have to kind of look at how's the stormwater going to factor in. But that could also help with how does it look to the neighbors. I think we established that you were indeed complying with the law and county guidance and all that, you know, densities and everything. The site construction, that's pretty standard. The HOA, I would suggest, and this kind of goes with the $8,000 that you're offering to donate. It was brought to my attention that it's great to put the money in the HOA account, but you would need to look at some way to make sure that that's what it's used for, instead of when the HOA is formed, all of a sudden they go, oh, well, we need money for a new entrance or whatever. I mean, if you're going to go to the trouble of putting that money in there so that their road maintenance is taken care of, I would, you know, just kind of find out what vehicle it needs, how it needs to be put in there so that it can only be used for stormwater or road maintenance. And then the district commissioner adjustments, that's pretty standard. And, well, we won't go on number 10. So I know you would prefer to have an answer today, but I think that I think you can have a better discussion if you come back and talk about the things that we talked about. And with the fact that there's no zoning in January, it gives you the opportunity to spend some time in January with the new commissioner to kind of get her up to speed. And she's a very quick study. She and I have met a lot. And so I think that the better course of action because like I said, I don't know if the board would go with 4 or 5, and you know, you make a valid point as to why you think you need 5. Of course, the community makes a point where they need 4. I mean, you know, so we're really kind of in the middle. And so I would think that you may be able to benefit from a little more time to potentially get to where you want to be. So I know it's not the answer you want, but like, could be worse if you could only get 4.
I understand.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to hold the Z54 until the February zoning hearing.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you,
With
Mr.
that,
Chairman.
let's
Mr.
take a
Hahn.
break to
Thank you.
10:45. Z71, correct, John?
Yes, sir. And Z71 also has other business item number 73 connected with it. So would it be the board's will to hear those two cases together?
Sure,
Okay,
that'll work.
I'll go ahead and read them in together.
Is that okay with you?
I would prefer it. I think it makes it easier and more
Okay.
efficient for the
How
board.
about you, Commissioner Burrow? You good with that? Since
Okay.
everybody agrees on that, we're not going to do it.
Well, that's right.
It was pulled. It was pulled earlier. Z70.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was continued.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Z71 of 2020, David Pearson Communities Incorporated, request rezoning from R30 to RA6 for a single-family residential subdivision and land lots 736 and 777 of the 16th District, located at the terminus of Ross Road, northwest of Sandy Plains Road, with its companion case of the business item number 73 of 2020, which is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for David Pearson Communities Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z90 of 2015. The property is located in land lots 737 and 776 of the 16th District, located on the northwest side of Sandy Plains Road, north of Ross Road. Is there anyone here in person opposed to any of these cases? No. Let the record show there's no one here in person opposed to these cases. Is there anyone here online opposed to these cases? No. And there is no one here online opposed to these cases. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Moore.
Just a Christmas gift, I guess.
You know what I was thinking.
You were thinking exactly that. How did you do that? Okay.
But I'm going to let you, he's got the floor.
That's right. Just through hard work and effort.
All right, well, that's the way it usually works out. All right, Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
Okay. For the record, I'm Kevin Moore here on behalf of the applicant and owner in this application for rezoning. What you see on your screen is the site plan for the rezoning case. But what I really want to start with is the site plan that kind of shows you the whole development put in place and kind of and do this in historical perspective from beginning to now, and I think that will make a lot more sense. This property is located on Sandy Plains at the intersection of Scuffle Grit and Sandy Plains. And what you're seeing on your screen now on the right-hand side is the site plan of property about 6.5 acres that was rezoned as the result of a settlement of litigation in 2019. That 6.5 acres was rezoned by settlement to RA6 with a specific site plan with the access and entrance on Sandy Plains only. That's a restricted access on Sandy Plains per DOT comments. And by agreement, this was the result of a mediation and ultimately approved by the board by settlement in 2019, just over a year ago. At the time, we had a lot of great conversations that led up to that settlement with the adjoining subdivision to the north. You kind of see it right there. It's called East Brook. In addition, there's a subdivision to the west called Briarwood. And we had a lot of engagement with them, both in the original application that led to a lawsuit and then subsequent negotiations with them when they both wholeheartedly supported the settlement that was reached in 2019. As part of that, we also, not part of that, but part of the discussions we were having, we were always asked about and discussed the property to the rear. There's about just over 8 acres, 8.2 acres to the rear of this property. And it is sitting there and was always asked as if that would ever be part of this project as kind of a phase 2, that it made a lot of sense, primarily because there's a little road called Ross Road, and you can kind of see it, and I'll go back to what I'll call phase 2, and the subject of the application for rezoning. Ross Road also intersects with Sandy Plains Road, a very short distance, at a signalized intersection. That's a signalized intersection of Ross Road, Scuffle Grit, and Sandy Plains. This road simply dead ends into this property. There's not much on Ross Road, and it had a great opportunity to add it really as phase 2, and that's what's before you today. And we've proposed this rezoning application for the 8.2 acres to the rear. That is done in the exact same manner with the exact same stipulations and conditions that were approved as part of what I call phase 1 on the front piece on Sandy Plains. What this does is improves a lot of different things. Number one, it improves the overall quality of the community. It now has a full amenity. Number one. Number two, now it has 2 distinct access points, with one being a signalized intersection with protected turns. coming out Ross Road onto Sandy Plains. Those are huge benefits for this proposed development and community. So what we have is a rezoning that matches the one that was approved a year ago for what I call Phase 1. That's the rezoning application, which is Z71. And then you have a site plan amendment, because it was site plan specific, that didn't show that connection from 2019. It simply now shows that connection through the two, so you have a Phase 1, Phase 2, and an entire development. That's what we're presenting here today. We worked very hard with both Eastbrook and Briarwood and obtained their non-objection support of this proposal through this time. They were very pleased to see it. So it was part of their expectations that ultimately we hopefully would be able to do this. So with that, we respectfully request your approval as recommended by the Planning Commission and your professional staff. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have no one in opposition, so Commissioner Burrow, I'll let you handle each case separately, okay?
Okay. As far as a motion?
Yeah, I just prefer to have a motion for each one.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Moore, working with the neighbors, and also the neighbors in the area, Briarwood and Hasty Acres, and there were some emails regarding the Phase 1 entrance, but that has already been determined with the settlement of litigation that Mr. Moore referenced from Phase 1 in 2019. So, and then the other business is just to connect the road and through the Phase 2 from Phase 1 to access Ross Road, which will help alleviate traffic in the initial phase, Phase 1. The only addition that I'd like to make is from DOT's recommendation to include a decel lane be constructed on Sandy Plains Road for site development traffic turning onto Ross Road and improving Ross Road from the proposed development frontage to City of Marietta boundary line in order to comply with Cobb County standards. I don't think this was included in your original STIP letter from November 25th, so I'd like to add that decel lane be constructed as DOT's recommendations. And that is to Ross Road, not to Hasty Road. That's not Phase 1, it's Phase 2 only.
Right.
So with that, I just want to comment that this is RA6, which mirrors the Phase 1. So all the lots are under or right at 6 units per acre. They are detached, and it's my understanding that's the only variance, but the neighbors wanted them detached, so that's why I would allow the one variance to keep them detached, like the Phase 1. So I make a motion to approve Z71 to the RA6 zoning district, subject to STIP letter and site plan received by, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Moore dated November 25th, site plan presented and received by zoning division on, this says October 1. That's not right. Is that right, John? Was the site plan received in October?
It's, the site plan is dated September 30th and filed on October 1st, which was the
Okay.
filing
So
date
October
for
1.
this application.
Detached units, special emphasis on stream buffer for any additional buffering that might be required. the D-Cell Lane comments on Sandy Plains to Ross Road, and zoning staff PC comments and recommendations, and final site plan and architectural style elevations be approved by district commissioner.
We have a second? You have a second. Discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0. And before we do OB 73, John, could you give us a staff recommendation on that, please? You can do that from there, Kevin. You're good there.
Thank you.
Well, no,
Whoops.
this OB 73 goes with Z 71.
It goes with this Z, yeah. So we're good.
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, the staff would recommend the board approve other business number 73, subject to Exhibit 1 contained in the other business packet, DOT comments, fire department comments, and all previous comments to remain in effect that are not in conflict.
Okay. Commissioner Burrow,
Motion to approve OB 73 as presented.
we have a second. Discussion. Hearing none, call a motion. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Moore, and I just want to know, say, since this is the last year you present before me, I think your father would be very, very proud of you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you saying that. Very much.
I'm sure this county and the new board looks forward to working with you, the same professional you've always presented here.
Sure, thank you.
And I want to thank you for all you've done for your clients and for helping this board make decisions, which, as you know, are always very difficult ones.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for those kind words, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say, yeah, I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have clients that hire me to come up here often, every month, it seems. Some answers are good, some answers are bad. I've had the pleasure of appearing before both you and Commissioner Ott for a number of years, and I just very much appreciate your attitude towards the job. This is a difficult part of the job, zoning is, for any commissioner, any elected official. And I appreciate your attitude. You did what you thought was right, whether it agreed with me or not, but I appreciate your attitude about it, and your approach and your professionalism at all times. And so you're to be congratulated for your service, and that comes from me as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin,
Kevin,
and Merry
and,
Christmas and Happy New Year.
And
as
I
well,
think,
you
Kevin, I
and your
might have been up here when you started. I'm thinking about it now.
You're that old?
No, I've been here that long. I think, I mean, at least the planning commission,
Yeah,
I think, I
almost.
remember when you got out of law school.
Yeah,
That's
so,
a scary thought.
long time
Commissioner
ago.
Ott, you've been here since we all started.
But thank you.
good point.
so-
Good point.
Merry Christmas to you and your
All
families.
right, thank you, Kevin.
For all of you, thank you.
Okay, the last case is OB 65.
Yes, sir. Other business item number 65 of 2020 is to consider a reduction of minimum public road frontage for Jonas Martinez from 75 feet to 50 feet for tract 1 and from 75 feet to 0 feet for tract 2. The property is located on the north side of South Gordon Road, west of Pisgah Road, in land lot 304 of the 18th District. By way of background, Mr. Chairman and Board, the Board of Commissioners considers all reductions to minimum public road frontage pursuant to a code amendment to Section 134-2717A, adopted on February 27, 2018. The subject property is required to have 75 feet of public road frontage per lot. The proposed tract 1 has 50 feet of public road frontage, and proposed tract number 2 has 0 feet of public road frontage. Both are large tracts that are both over 1 acre on this R20 zone property. The property currently has 2 houses on 1 lot, and approval of the variance will allow the property to be subdivided so there's 1 house per lot. All access will be from South Gordon Road via an existing asphalt gravel driveway, which has been in use for many years. If approved, all of the zoning criteria for the tracts would be met, such as setbacks, lot size, and impervious surface. This was held from last month's hearing, and during the hold period, staff did look at 2 issues that came up at the November hearing. First, the question regarding Alums Lane being a public right-of-way, which is in the very back of the property, was researched, and it was found that Alums Lane is not public right-of-way. It's actually a 12-foot easement/alley. Number 2, the question regarding whether 1212 South Gordon Road was subdivided off this lot, which caused a zoning deficiency. We did research this and found a recorded plat from 1957 that shows these 2 lots as 2 separate lots. And 1212 South Gordon is the little square lot in front of this lot. At this time, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there's 2 people opposed. Would the applicant in opposition please come forward to be sworn in?
Hello, thank you for your time and hearing me again. I'm representing the 1216 house that we're doing the lot split, trying to do the lot split. And there were some other things that were brought up by the neighbor about his concerns that the property was going to be further subdivided into a lot more lots and possibly a trailer park or something like that being put in. So we have no plans for that, and I spoke with zoning about writing it so that it could in the further not be subdivided into any more lots than that, and we have absolutely no problem with that. Another concern that the neighbor had was with the assigned amount of road footage being 0 to one property and 50 to the other property, and I think the board also had a problem with that. And I spoke with zoning, and they're gonna rewrite it to 25 feet per each property so that there would be no 0 road footage, which the neighbor thought that that would possibly be an avenue to where we could do anything we wanted on that property, which we have no intention of. So we have no problem with the 25 and 25 split. There was also another problem with the drawings, and when the surveyor made the drawings, he made an error with the acreage and the square foot and had those numbers reversed. So I had them correct that number and send the drawings back where it's 4.33 acres. The neighbor also had a problem with where was the pin in the back of the yard in the corner, and our surveyors looked and they could not find a pin, and it was under the understanding that this was possibly surveyed before they were putting pins in, and that's why there may be no pin. I'm under the understanding that he did have a survey done, so maybe that they found the pin. Like he said, the DOT said we cannot use the road in the back of the property. There were some tenants in there that were causing the problems, and that was a lot of what the neighbors' problems were these tenants that were in there. At least that was one of the concerns for sure. Those tenants have been evicted. It's really not very easy to evict somebody. Even if they get complaints from the city, you just can't evict them because of those complaints. You have to give them opportunities to correct a situation, and they did not correct a situation. There was some problems with some garbage being left out and different things like that. And then we finally, once we had enough things on them, I was able to evict them, and now they are evicted. We have a thorough process when we rent a property. We credit check and we do everything that we can, but there's still a possibility, that you could get a bad tenant. And as managing the property, I think we did what we could do to get rid of that bad tenant as fast as you can. The neighbors also asked that we possibly put up a fence between the 2 properties, and I have no problem doing that. I'll do 100 feet fence. It's a really long property, so a fence, the whole property really wouldn't do as much, but a fence between the areas of the 2 houses, 100 feet, I think would help with privacy for both properties. And the last thing that I have, and it's this, I don't know, it's not really, I don't know. In the 50s, I guess, this property had, the way they ran the power was really weird. And our property, there's a power pole right in the middle of the property, almost by the driveway, and then that power line jets over to the neighbor's house. Of course, that was probably all worked in, but I was just trying to bring that point up that this property has made variances to the neighbor to allow for things, and we have a giant power pole right in front of the house in the middle of our property every day to remind us of that. That was all that I have. If you all have any questions for me, I would be glad to answer.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, those in opposition?
My name is Chandler Taylor. I'm the resident of 1290 South Gordon Road. I would like to thank Mr. Rittman for working with us on these issues. He's been pretty good about some of our concerns. One of the concerns that he mentioned that really wasn't addressed in the email chain that my wife was kind of following up with Mr. Peterson and Lisa Cupid, was the overall size of their lot on their survey is shown as 4.33 acres. Cobb County has it listed at 4.2. It says it was done without the benefit of a title. We're having our own survey. It was supposed to be completed or written up yesterday by Mr. Perryman, Donald Perryman, but he hasn't done that yet. So hopefully today or very soon. And the reason I bring it up is because the proposed privacy fence, if you look at their survey, it shows that there's an offset of 31.1 feet from our property line to their building that they've renovated into a livable structure. And I don't know that that's accurate just based on the general accuracy of the survey, which was performed without a title that had numerous discrepancies. And I guess what I'm asking is that when we get our survey back, which was done with the benefit of a title by a prominent surveyor, that with the privacy fence be placed according to that survey and not necessarily this one, just because I have some concerns about the legitimacy of the survey as a whole. As far as the power line goes, that was something that's been there since before we purchased the property. I don't know how the power company wants to manage that. It could even potentially be on our property based on what our survey reports when we get it. In closing, really, I mean, I think we're happy with the stipulations that we suggested and that Mr. Rittman is willing to go along with them. Thank you to the Board of Commissioners for hearing our position to OB 65. Thank you to Jeff Rittman, the property manager of 1216 South Gordon Road, for listening to our concerns and agreeing to our requested stipulations. The 3 suggested stipulations were proposed out of legitimate concern that our neighboring property was being developed and managed in a way that did not consider the well-being of the surrounding neighbors. The agreement to these stipulations demonstrates an acknowledgement of our concerns and provides a meaningful assurance that moving forward, the property will be managed responsibly and that the rules governing R20 properties be observed. Thanks again to the Board of Commissioners and Mr. Rittman and to all present online. What is your suggestion about one more thing. He mentioned the privacy fence be 100 feet. What was written in the email chain was actually 150 feet, 25 feet, extending beyond one of his houses and 25 feet on the other. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, John, it's the staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman and Board, staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to each lot having 25 feet of public road frontage, subject to no further subdivision of this property and no mobile homes. Number 3, installation of a 6-foot tall wooden privacy fence, 150 feet long. That begins 25 feet in front of the first house and runs 150 feet to 25 feet behind the second house. Subject to Cobb DOT comments and recommendations, subject to the fire department comments and recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cupid.
I'd like to thank the applicant and Mr. Taylor for coming together to discuss the outstanding issues from our zoning hearing. Mr. Taylor, thanks for your diligence with respect to looking at this other business application. I know I received feedback from, I believe it was your wife, Anne Marie, with respect to the surveyor, with there not being an encroachment, but from listening to you today, there appears to be an outstanding matter of where the specific placement of that fence would be. If I can have you approach, please, I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yes, ma'am. What I was just referring to is that if you're going solely by their submitted survey based for OB 65, it shows a 31.1 foot offset from our property line. We haven't gotten our survey back, but I did speak to the representative doing it, and he said that it's more likely 15 feet, not 31.1 feet, that are from our property line to the building. So there is, in terms of constructing a privacy fence, I think it needs to be on a very well-established property line. And my concern is that this survey that they submitted overall as a whole in terms of the size of it, doesn't make a lot of sense. It's something that I brought up before because there's an acre lot missing from the southern portion of it. And as you see, the 3 westward lots are all approximately the same, listed at the same 4.2 acres. So I don't know how their surveyor came to the conclusion that their property is 4.33 acres.
Okay. What we can do is address the fence, and John, provide me your feedback. If we can say final fence placement subject to commissioner review and approval, that way we can still move forward.
And that'll work.
Okay, very good. And you're comfortable with it being a 6-foot wooden privacy fence?
I don't know what the standard is. Is that the standard height for a privacy fence?
It'll be 6 feet.
Okay, whatever the standard is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. With that, I move that we approve other business item 65, subject to the conditions read by our zoning manager, including a stipulation that the final fence placement is subject to commissioner review and approval. Other staff comments and recommendations to remain in effect that are not otherwise in conflict.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
I believe that's the last case, right, John? Okay. Well,
And before you adjourn.
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to, since the staff that's here is not the staff that, well, Jessica will be there tonight, but most of the staff that comes to the zoning hearings will not come to the meeting tonight. And I just want to say that over my 20 years almost of doing zoning, whether it be on that side of the dais or this side, I just want to thank you all for the professional work that you do. You put up with the commissioners calling you up and grilling you on the spot. There's not many staff members that have to do that, even at the regular commission meetings. And so I commend you for the great job that you do, all of you, and just want to thank you for all the help that you provide the board.
And John, I want to thank you for helping me. As you know, I was a rookie when I came to this position, and what a lot of people don't know is that whenever I called you, you called me right back, or as soon as you could. So that shows it's the behind the scenes that people don't appreciate the staff, and you certainly represent what's best about the Cobb County staff and all the staff elected officials too. So I wish every one of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And with that, we're adjourned.